Well, if you are an XRP holder or a potential XRP holder, I hope you have your bags packed, or you at least have plans to pack some more bags with XRP, because in this video I'm going to lay out what some people think is going to be the end of this case, at least in a time frame perspective, because there's a couple of things in play, and Jeremy Hogan, our favorite outside attorney covering this case, has something to say regarding another case that is actually coming before the Ripple versus the SEC case. It's another case that the SEC is taking on right now with a crypto company called LBRY, and they are having none of it. But nonetheless, I'm going to be talking about some of the timing and time frame that this case could be shaping up to end by. And at the same time, there's a couple other factors in play that could be shaping, well, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and some of the rest of these markets. Number one is the US Federal Reserve raising rates, which I'm going to talk about, as well as what's going on in the Ukraine. But I don't just mean the war. Some really interesting stuff regarding cryptocurrencies. I'm going to talk about it in this video. Hey everyone, my name is Randy and welcome back to the Late Night Grind. Right now on this channel we are covering the Ripple versus the SEC case, but I'm also covering cryptocurrency news, investment markets, and personal finance. So if any or all these topics interest you, make sure you hit that subscribe button, join the Late Night Grind community. And if you're feeling generous, I'd really appreciate it if you do two things. Smash the thumbs up button and watch the video all the way to the end. Those really are the two best things you can do to support a YouTube channel. So if you do that, I'd greatly appreciate it. All right, guys, let's jump into it. So just yesterday, the United States Federal Reserve did something that a lot of people were expecting, and that is they are raising rates. Not by a lot, they're only raising it 0.25%. Now, some of the speculation was that they were going to be raising it 0.5%, but nonetheless, they still raised it 0.25%. What they call that is being dovish. Hawkish means they're going to be overly aggressive, and of course, doing nothing is doing nothing. But being dovish means, yeah, they're going to raise their rates a little bit, and the speculation is that they actually have 6 more raises slated to happen this year. So we're going to see what's going to happen all along the way. So while I was watching some of the analysis, what they had to say was basically, listen, anytime the Federal Reserve has been raising rates or raised rates for the first time in a new regime, it's essentially triggered the stock market and some of these other indexes to rise. In fact, one analyst said, basically just go long on commodities and enjoy the ride for the next year. Because typically rate hikes signal a stronger economy. This one might be a little bit different though. There's a lot of different things at play. And of course, we have something going on in the Ukraine right now, as we know. So Jerome Powell basically took his name and the rest of the Federal Reserve kind of out of the conversation by only doing a little bit to help stave off the ridiculously high inflation. 7.9 officially, unofficially probably more like 15 to 18%. So is 0.25% raise going to really do anything against 8% inflation? Well, that remains to be seen. Probably not. However, once some of these other rate hikes starting to kick in, well, it could. In fact, I just read an article earlier today that said the mortgage interest rates have already climbed an entire 1% just in the past month or so. So if you're talking about housing markets and what that could do to the price, especially with a dwindling supply, we could be looking at a correction. And are we going to see that actually reflected in Bitcoin or in the cryptocurrency markets? I don't think so. I think it is still largely run by cycles as well as several other factors. But let's take a look at what's going on in the Ukraine right now, because as we all know, there's a war going on, and there's a lot of gaslighting going on in the media as well, and everyone's quite not sure who to believe on things. But here's what we do know. As of yesterday, President Zelensky actually signed a new bill into law. Yes, while his country is being invaded, he signed into law a cryptocurrency bill. They basically went ahead and legalized cryptocurrencies. Now that makes sense because the Ukraine has been given almost $100 million to people and organizations within the Ukraine in cryptocurrencies. They do that to get around certain sanctions, to get through the slowness of the fiat and legacy payment systems. Makes a lot of sense. However, this wasn't done just because of the donations being done in cryptocurrencies. I was looking at this, and this bill had actually been shaping up for several months. In fact, back into 2021. Back in September of 2021 is when it was actually being discussed by the Ukrainian financial government agencies. So it's not like this just happened. However, it did just happen, and going into law officially, this is not going to be the only one. This is not necessarily going to move the markets, but this is just another one of those mass adoption signals that's happening all along the way. We are going to see a bunch of other countries do it, mark my words. Now that we have some of these other factors in play, and we're talking about what could be happening with the rest of these markets, later into the fall, I want to talk about what Ripple versus the SEC is going to be doing, because right now, the SEC is actually taking on another blockchain company called LBRY. They're actually suing them for something very similar to what they're going after Ripple for. However, one of the big things within the LBRY case is that the SEC actually, is that the judge actually struck down the fair notice defense, where the SEC had the judge strike down LBRY's fair notice defense. Meanwhile, it's actually being upheld in the Ripple versus the SEC case. Could be some other evidences there. I don't really know what's going on, but it's really fun to follow on Twitter. So if you want to follow the guys from LBRY that are being sued, they absolutely have no filter whatsoever in what they think of the SEC. I'll put a link in the description below to my Twitter profile, and you can go check them out there. They're being as honest and open and transparent as you can possibly be while going through a case with the SEC, and it's fascinating to watch. And in fact, some of the things coming out basically about the SEC bullying them, threatening them, basically threatening them to put them into bankruptcy just from attorney's fees is actually coming out. It's wild, wild stuff. But regardless, they actually have a date set for which they're going to trial, which is September 8th, 2022. September 8th is, of course, moving into the fall. Attorney Jeremy Hogan, who's been covering this case, he was talking about the LBRY case, and he said this case will get resolved before the Ripple versus the SEC case gets resolved, before it even goes into trial. Now, obviously, a settlement can happen at any time, but if this is going to go to a trial and go to a summary judgment and Ripple's going to go for the win, it's not going to happen until the fall. So if you have your XRP bags packed, you'll have to be a little more patient. If you don't have them packed, well, you have a little more time to stock up. That's not financial advice. Please do your own research. I'm not telling you to buy XRP, but something this big, where a company like Ripple that is building massive ecosystem utilizing XRP is driving more and more applications to be built on the XRP ledger. Of course, obviously, you've seen some of my videos covering Solargenic, the new NFT marketplace. And of course, there's a lot more coming. In fact, Ripple's already pledged a ton more money to other companies that are building these applications on the XRP ledger. So this case is huge for XRP. But if you do hold XRP and you hold some of the tokens that are involved in the XRP ledger ecosystem, it's going to be big news. So I wanted to give that time frame that anything absent short of a settlement, we're going to be looking at fall. But if you want to follow a similar case, the SEC versus LBRY is a fascinating case to follow. And finally, I wanted to wrap up this video by talking about my latest video that I just released. It was a review of the Solargenic NFT marketplace and also a feature of a brand new Michael Jackson ultra rare NFT. And I wanted to point some things out because I saw some comments on my Twitter feed as well as on that comment section of that video. That NFT is, of course, it represents something. Yes, you're going to be paying money for that NFT, but that NFT is essentially what is giving the rights and the ownership of what you're really going to be buying, which is that actual physical photo that was owned by Michael Jackson, and that's what you're going to be the proud owner of. That is the one. That picture has actually not seen the light of day on the digital world. So I just wanted to clear things up. Yes, you're going to be paying for that NFT, but essentially what you're doing is buying the ownership rights to that physical photo that you will receive. I actually talked to the owner of that NFT. He said they're working with third-party authenticators. They have everything squared away for doing authentication, for doing due diligence, and obviously working with escrow, and they'll do the whole bit if you're interested in that. He also said they have several other NFTs, Michael Jackson NFTs, that are coming out and that you might want to pay attention to. So I'm going to put a link in the description to his NFT profile because there are some fascinating things on there. Right now he's selling a couple of physical photos that are from the Michael Jackson bankruptcy estate being represented as NFTs. All right, guys, that's going to be it. I really appreciate you watching this video all the way to the end, and of course for smashing that thumbs up button. And as always, I'll see you guys on the next video.